Good afternoon and welcome to class via Zoom. Sorry I couldn't be with you on Friday. Hope you took advantage of the day off from meeting in person. Um, we're going to wrap things up pretty quick here. We've only got 3 class days left for my all 3 of my sections. Just a little look ahead about what's left to do. Uh, on Monday, tomorrow, November 24th, I'll be um, giving your exams back and your second critical thinking assignment. I have all those entered into the grade book by tonight. Um, we will finish chapter 7 on the courts after I give the test back. It won't take very long to do that. Basically, all we'll have left to do is cover the U.S. Supreme Court. On Monday, December 1st, we will do 1 or 2 lectures on foreign policy. That won't be the entire Module 8 in SkyPack. It'll only be the second half of Chapter 8 or Module 8. And you'll get a feel, I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but you'll get a feel for that once you get into Chapter 8, where the section on foreign policy begins. I always look forward to that because that's what I'm actually um, uh, trained to teach. And what I like teaching the most is either U.S. foreign policy or international politics. Um, so we'll spend 2 days on that. That will make a part of the final along with chapter 7, which we didn't cover on exam 3. Um, and I'll have the notes up for U.S. foreign policy again tonight, more than likely. You can start looking into those over break, and I'll post a quiz on chapter 8 later. I can't remember if I have one of my files or not, but if not, I'll have to write one between now and then. Speaking of quizzes, uh, the 9 o'clock section, I got the quiz uploaded to Blackboard for you. So remember, chapter 5 quiz was the one I messed up on. You couldn't find the answers in SkyPack. I fixed that. Should be able to find everything in SkyPack now. Um, that will not be due until the day of the final, along with the quiz for modules 7 and modules 8. Seven's already up, is already there, and some of you I know have already started working on that. But I'll have a quiz up for module 8, as I said, sometime in the next couple of days. So December 1st, December 3rd, class days to do foreign policy. Uh, Friday the 5th is a study day, and then the following week is finals week. And the final dates and times are on your syllabus. I'm going to go over all this again on Monday after I return the exam, including how to calculate your grade, looking at the points that you have on Blackboard. Don't trust the average just yet. For some reason, I never have mastered the mysteries of how to get percentages calculated correctly on Blackboard. And I'm not really interested in learning how to do it now that we're changing learning platforms starting next year. I think that's about it. If I missed anything, you can ask me about it in class tomorrow when we get together. We had a really good weekend with regard to Model UN. I hope you all took my advice and stayed out of the student center on Friday when we had 600 high school students from all over the state and a few out of state to do Model UN. And things seem to have gone pretty well. So we'll do that again next year, and maybe some of you who are majors will have an opportunity to participate in that when the time comes. All right, let me pull up my notes here, and there we are. Share that from the play from the start. Okay. Whoops, no, don't want to do that. Sorry. Didn't want to start from the beginning. Well, I guess it's too late now. Let me just scroll through these real quick and we'll get to where I need to be. Okay, wasn't very far. There we go. Yeah, I did want to review this part kind of quickly. Hopefully you can see that. I'll put myself over here where it's kind of out of the way. Hang on. Sorry, I look really silly doing this, I know. All right. I guess all you really need to do is hear me, not necessarily see me. So we stopped. I guess it was last Wednesday at a couple slides after this, but I'm going to review a little bit. We have a two-tiered or two-tiered court system in the United States. We have the federal court system, which the U.S. Supreme Court is part of, and federal appellate courts and federal district courts. And then all 50 states have their uh, own court systems. Keep in mind something I've told you a few times already, and that is that it's possible for a state court and a federal court to both have jurisdiction, subject jurisdiction, and even geographic jurisdiction over crimes. The example I used was grand theft auto. You steal a car in Arkansas, drive it to Missouri, you cross the state line, that becomes a federal crime. And it's also a crime in Arkansas. So both court systems could put you on trial for that. Uh, it's not a very complicated process. Generally, the federal government and the state cooperate with respect to prosecuting criminals. Um, and sometimes, one or the other want the first bite of the apple. Remember, that's not something that violates the principle of double jeopardy, having two trials for the same crime in different court systems in say, the state of Arkansas and the federal court system. So just to review, courts with original jurisdiction, and those would be courts that are the first one to hear a case. And these would be the most familiar to most of you all. Uh, these are the kind of courts you see on TV with a judge and a jury and two lawyers, a plaintiff and a defendant, whether they're civil court or uh, criminal courts. Um, in some cases, and it varies from state to state, an individual can ask for what's called a bench trial and not have a jury hear their case, have uh, a jury of their peers hear their case, or I'm sorry, hear a judge hear their case for a bench trial. Um, there are some crimes like speeding and illegal lane changes, basically traffic tickets that are not eligible for jury trials. Most jurisdictions don't have the money to put a jury together every time someone gets a speeding ticket. Um, so in that case, your case would be heard by a magistrate or a judge. And I think we've talked about this before. Some of you have already been through that. So there are 94 U.S. district courts. Every state has at least one. Several states have five, and that is determined by the population of the state and the information found in uh, the Judiciary Acts passed by Congress creating court districts. We have two in Arkansas, the Eastern and Western District, and I've already been over that. Um, there are also the next level up. Say you appeal your case, you're not happy with the outcome in a federal court or in a state court, you can appeal. Now you're not going to get an entirely new trial. This one's going to look different than a district court. It's going to be heard by a panel of judges. In the case of Arkansas, I believe it's three judges sit on the courts of appeal. And in the case of the federal government, I know it's a panel of three judges. that are chosen randomly from a pool of judges that they have in each of the 94 U.S. districts. No, I'm sorry, the 12 appellate or circuit court districts. Um, not every state has an intermediate appellate court. There are seven that don't. I believe that's the right number. We're going to look at the list here in just a second. And then there are there's also state Supreme Courts. The U.S. Supreme Court is unique because it hears both uh, origin cases involving original jurisdiction or trials. But again, with the Supreme Court, you're not going before a panel of juries of your peers. That's going to be heard by the nine justices that currently make up the U.S. Supreme Court. But so they have both original jurisdiction over a narrow number of cases. We've already been over that, cases involving the government of the United States, cases involving two states suing each other, and the third one would be any case that involves a U.S. counsel or minister, basically either an ambassador or somebody working in the executive branch. Those would be the only three areas in which the Supreme Court would exercise original jurisdiction, the first court to hear a case. Um, next, um, here you can see the geographic boundaries of the um, appellate court system or the circuit court system. And you can see there's 12 courts, actually 12 and a half. There is a court in Washington, D.C. that hears cases involving patents, and it. I've just exhausted my knowledge of what the U.S. Patent Court does. They hear cases involving patent law, and then there's the district court or federal district court in Washington, D.C., which is kind of the junior varsity of the U.S. Supreme Court. Most of the nine individuals that serve on the Supreme Court today were chosen out of the D.C. district, the federal district in Washington, D.C. Looking at the map, you can see that Arkansas is part of the Eighth Judicial Circuit. Again, a panel of judges assigned to those one, two, three, four, five, six, seven states in the Eighth District. And you can also see the lines in Arkansas for the Eastern and Western District. It's interesting, both of them kind of extend either much further west or much further east than simply just drawing a line down the middle of the state. You would think that's the way it would be, but it actually is based on population, what parts of the state have the most people. Um, there we go. So this is how our dual court system is set up. Uh, we have, at the bottom we have, or all the way down here, at the very bottom we have 94 district courts, and that includes three territorial courts for U.S. overseas territories and possessions. That would include Guam, the Virgin Islands, Northern Mariana Islands in the Pacific, and Puerto Rico as well. I'm not sure why it was left off this list. Uh, Over immediately to the right of that, you'll see the variety of state trial courts, and they go by different names. It's, because it's a federal system, each of the 50 states has its own unique features to its court system. Um, Superior Court is a name, and it almost sounds like you're talking about a Supreme Court here, but in the state of New York, Superior Court is the court that is the first to hear a case. It's a trial court. Probate court deals a lot with wills and estates. County courts, much like superior courts. Again, don't confuse the county courts that are the quorum courts and county judges that we have here in Arkansas, that those are not real courts. They're legislative bodies, not judicial bodies. Municipal court, again, based in cities, they hear minor cases involving misdemeanors and traffic fines. Domestic relations deal with granting divorces, adoptions, child custody. Uh, this would be the court that would issue a restraining order if a spouse believed that their partner was a threat to them. And then finally, justice of the peace and police magistrate. Um, my home state of Delaware still has an office called Justice of the Peace, but you don't find these uh, very often, that term used very often. It's a very kind of antiquated 19th century term for a minor court. Uh, I know at least two NFL football teams, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles, actually had for a while, they don't do it anymore, but they had uh, magistrate courts in their stadiums to deal with bad behavior by fans during a football game. If you're arrested, you're not taken out of the stadium. I guess you get to stay and enjoy the game, but or not enjoy the game. It depends. But they take you before a magistrate immediately, and they may be, charged with a crime like drunken disorderly or uh, assault and battery, that type of thing. Which I asked my friends in Delaware about this not too long ago because the Philadelphia Eagles had this type of court, their old stadium. It didn't carry over to the new place to Lincoln Field. So I guess that's good news. That shows the NFL is making progress to keep their fans a little more sedate. Whoops, I got to go back. You'll notice that there we go. You'll notice that immediately above the trial court level, there are appellate courts, 12 in the U.S. Court of Appeal system. Most states, not all, have state appellate courts. Uh, and that those courts are different. I already mentioned this in class, but I'll do it again. That those courts are different than trial courts in that they uh, don't give you an entirely a new trial. They look at your case to see if there was an error in the law, like somebody turned out somebody was related to the victim, although they try to screen those out during the jury selection process. It happens. Um, or certain evidence was withheld, or witnesses were not called, or cannot be found, or evidence was tampered with. Anything that would result in a mistrial, uh, it would then go back, presumably, and depending on what the state wanted to do, if the state loses, they're probably going to put you on trial again. Now you'll get a new trial. Uh, and in the federal court system, the same principle applies there. And then on the federal level, over there on the left, the final court that your case could be heard by is the United States Supreme Court in Washington with 9 justices. We'll talk more about them on Monday. And then in the various the 50 states, there are state Supreme Courts as well. And you'll see that the arrow from state Supreme Courts and appellate courts both end at the U.S. Supreme Court. Um, there's a reason why it's called the Supreme Court. It's the Supreme Court of the land. It's the last stop. If you lose your case there, you're pretty much finished. And you may hear people say, and maybe you've said it yourself, that this is an outrage. I'm going to take you to court. I'll go all the way to the Supreme Court if I have to. Um, well, number one, that's very expensive. And number two, it's up to the court whether or not they want to hear your case. They don't hear every case that comes to them. In fact, they only hear about 5% of the cases that are actually request a writ of certiorari, which is basically the court saying, we will hear your case. So don't count on that. So as I just said, most states have three levels to their court system. State Supreme Court at the very top. Whoops, Didn't mean to do that. State Supreme Court at the very top, an appellate court system, the state trial court system. And at the trial level, again, as I just said, you have various types of trial courts, district courts. It's one of the terms we use here in Arkansas. Probate courts, superior courts. Housing courts are very interesting. We don't have these in Arkansas, but in some municipalities, if a tenant believes that they've been treated unfairly or a landlord has a problem with a tenant, they go to housing court and deal with small issues. Small claims courts made famous by TV shows like The People's Court, where no lawyers are involved and the amount of damages is relatively minor, just several $1,000s, for example. I don't know what it is in Arkansas, but it can't be that much. But there's no lawyers involved. There's in some cases it might not even be a real judge. It's a magistrate or somebody who's been appointed to do that on an ad hoc or temporary basis. So that's our state courts, and this is what Arkansas's court system looks like. Basically, there's again, whoops, yeah, I'm gonna get this straightened out one of these days. There we go. Um, you can see on this slide, we begin all the way at the bottom with state district courts and local district courts. Um, State district courts you'd find in mostly in rural areas. District courts are found within cities. There are 55 judges in the state district court system and 37 in the uh, uh, local district system. And I'll have something to say that all of these individuals, all 234 of the justices in Arkansas, all have something in common. They're all elected. We do not appoint judges in Arkansas. We um, uh, have them run for election, which I'll just share with you. I'm not real crazy about that. I don't think it's an ideal situation to have an individual sitting on a bench hearing a case brought by someone who say may have given money during the campaign to their opponent or even to them. Um, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but we like to think of the court systems in the United States as being above politics. Well, they're not. In fact, I think electing them even makes it worse. Now, the good news is in Arkansas, until about 20 years ago, we elected our judges, court judges, by party affiliation, or they had a party affiliation. Now they are nonpartisan. Judges don't have a D or an R next to their name when they run, which that's progress, I think, because you're removing, the labels, and you may get a bad judge elected in a strongly Republican or Democratic county just because they belong to the Democrat or Republican Party, and that really shouldn't be a factor in electing judges or even anybody in local government, and is what I think. Um, so state and local district courts handle traffic violations, misdemeanor, criminal cases, um, other types of cases. Generally, uh, uh, most civil action takes place at the state district court level. Appellate courts, there's just one Arkansas Court of Appeals with 9 judges on it. Again, justices or judges, all elected, and at the very top, the Arkansas uh, Supreme Court. Um, Now, there are other ways to do it. Obviously, we've already talked about this, that in the federal court system, all justices are appointed by the president. Every district judge, every appellate judge, and judges on the Supreme Court are appointed by the president. Um, there are a few states that do it that way, but in Arkansas, as I said, we elect all of them. Now, in a handful of states, and I told you I would look at the number for this. I can't remember. It's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Not nine, but seven states do not have an intermediate appellate court. And I think the thing that binds all these states together, look at them, whether geographically distant from each other, some are in the north, some are in the south, some are east, the west. What do they have in common? I think the common variable is the common denominator is that they're all low population, and so having an intermediate court in a state with a small population like Delaware, Maine, Montana, and elsewhere, state's saving some money, I guess, by not having a intermediate appellate court. So in those nine states, if an individual loses their case or the state loses its case, it goes immediately to the state Supreme Court if there's an appeal. And then the appellate court in the state may choose to hear your case or not choose to hear your case. It's not automatic there. Uh, so, that's the end of the road. If the state Supreme Court doesn't want to hear your case, you're pretty much done. So again, to review, lowest level of courts is the U.S. District Court system. Uh, this is the lowest level. There are 94 of these. They would, yeah, they hear both criminal and civil cases. So one day a court may, or one week, the court may be hearing a case involving a crime that somebody's committed, and the next week they could be looking at a case that involves a lawsuit between two individuals. They have juries, although in some cases you can ask for a bench trial if you feel like the judge would do a better job adjudicating your case than a jury of your peers. For a federal court to hear your case, it has to involve, it's a little more narrow in terms of their jurisdiction, something concerning federal law, something concerning the Constitution, or in the case of a civil suit, two parties from different states uh, with the amount of controversy exceeding $75,000, which, yeah, that's a lot of money to some people, but if you're a major corporation and you're suing somebody in another state, it's really not that big a deal. But the vast majority of cases are heard by state courts, as I already mentioned the other day. The U.S. Circuit, the U.S. Court of Appeals. This again, I'm kind of reviewing a lot of this stuff here. Um, 12 circuits. The 13th is the one that involves patents and copyrights. Um, Solely appellate jurisdiction in the U.S. appeal system, as it is in the state system as well. Um, there's no evidence or new witnesses called. It's going to be a panel of three judges, again, chosen from a pool of judges in that circuit. And what they're looking at, or what the two sides are arguing, was in finding this person guilty or not guilty, or ruling in favor of the plaintiff and not the defendant, the court made an error in the law. There something that was left out or something was included where there's some technical violation that occurred that where the if that affected the verdict. And trials are expensive for states, so generally they like to cross all the T's and dot all the I's at the district court level, but it does happen where cases move up the ladder all the way to the state Supreme Court. So selection of judges, like just about everything else that happens in our federal system, the method of selection varies from state to state. In 5 states, judges are selected or appointed much like they are on the federal level. The governor appoints them, one or two of the branches of the state legislature approve them. So they don't have any strong political ties to any partisan group. Two states, they leave the governor out and say, we'll appoint the judges. 13 states in Arkansas would fall into this category, nonpartisan elections, which is the largest group. So nonpartisan elections, 13 out of 50. Seven states do it by partisan election. You run as a Democrat or Republican to be a judge. Um, and 11 use a system of retention of some kind. I'll talk about that in a second. Two states fall in the other category. It may be a hybrid of, uh, each branch of the state government is involved in it, or actually, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the two states in the others category and what it would involve, but it doesn't fit neatly into these other five. Uh, Retention, and so the first time I ever heard of this, I thought that's a great idea, and I still do. But there's a system called the Missouri Plan where a judge is appointed by the governor, approved by the state legislature, and basically is on probation. That's a kind of a mean, rough way of putting it, but they serve a term of, say, 4 years on the bench, being a judge. And at the end of that period of time, where they're on probation or they're, a freshman judge, at the end of that designated time, whether it's 4 years or 2 years or 5 years, their name will appear on the ballot. Now, they've been appointed by some political authority, uh, and their name will appear on the ballot should Judge Smith be retained as a judge. And if 51% of the people in his state or district agree with that, then he or she can keep their job indefinitely after that. Um, by the way, for in Arkansas, for our judges, I should have mentioned this. You do get elected, but you have to run for re-election every 4 years. So every 4 years, when Arkansans go to vote, there's typically some kind of judge on the ballot. The appellate court judge or district court judge or county judge is going to be on the ballot. And going back to retention or the Missouri plan, it's called the Missouri plan because I was the first state to do it. Um, it it's a good idea, except for the fact that most people, even myself included, uh, don't pay much attention to what judges are doing. I mean, they have to do something really heinous to get their name in the news as being a bad judge. Uh, yeah, I'll give you an example of this. California doesn't use the Missouri plan, but there was a judge, you may remember hearing about this, a judge who was subject to recall, which we, talked about earlier when we talked about some of the things that states do that the national government doesn't. But this judge in California had heard a case involving a young man who raped a woman, somebody his age, in a back alley behind a dumpster, which is really, I mean, it is really horrible. Uh, and the individual received like an 18-month sentence for this violent sexual assault. And people were enraged by this, that this guy, you know, raped somebody and he's getting, 18 months in prison. And with time served already, he was going to be out in less than a year. And the people in that county and throughout the state were enraged about this. And he was, they held a recall to remove him from office, and he was. The the problem there is that the judge, unfortunately, the judge was following the law that for a first-time offender, 18 months or whatever the sentence was, it was really low. It was 18 months or 2 years or something like that. That that was the most that was the biggest length of time in prison that he could give this individual by law. So the problem was not with the judge, the problem was with the law. I mean, if you want somebody who raped someone to serve more than 18 months in jail in California, you've got to, amend the penal code or the state constitution, whatever. Not like it's probably not in the state constitution, but you see what I'm saying. And people did pay attention to that case, but unfortunately, they didn't really understand that it wasn't the judge's fault that the kid only got 18 months. It was the law that the judge was basically adjudicating. So over at on the right, all federal judges know different systems here on the federal level. It's easy to do. It's one system, and it is the president appoints, the Senate confirms by a majority vote. Most judicial appointments made by the president and approved by the Senate are not noteworthy. We do focus on hearings and appointments of U.S. Supreme Court justices, but generally not circuit judges in the Eastern District of Arkansas. I mentioned something called senatorial courtesy earlier. That's when the president, for this is only for district court or trial court judges in uh, in all 50 states. So if the president is about to appoint a new judge to fill an opening in the Eastern District of Arkansas, he would consult with the senior most senator from that state, and the senator says, fine and dandy, he's okay with me or she's okay with me, then the then the appointment will go through and they'll be approved by the Judiciary Committee and then by the entire Senate. Now, this is uh, I need to get a more updated chart because this one is 5 years old now. But earlier we talked about, and I know your SkyPack module does this as well, talks about descriptive representation. And we talked about that when we talked about gerrymandering. Like basically, we have a Congress that doesn't look like America, and particularly the Senate. But through the magic of gerrymandering, we've been able to uh, get at least a House of Representatives that kind of looks a lot more like America than the U.S. Senate. You can do the same thing with the court, with the federal courts. You could try to create more diversity amongst the various individuals that the president appoints to serve on district courts, appellate courts, and the U.S. Supreme Court. And these are figures for Donald Trump through Donald Trump's first term as president. Uh, you'll see that uh, of the how many people do I have on this? 7 people who've served as president on this list, going back to Jimmy Carter. Uh, Democrats have generally been better at trying to create a more diverse court, particularly in choosing people of color, more women than men. You can see the other categories up there on there. Uh, the 226 judges appointed by Donald Trump and approved by the Senate, 189 were white, 9 were black, 9 were Hispanic, 13 Asian, 6 in the other category, uh, and total non-white over there on the right. Of all our Republican presidents going back to Ronald Reagan, you can see on this chart that Donald Trump has the highest percentage of appointing non-white judges to the federal court. That I'll just put it bluntly, that's hard to believe. um, that yeah, he's created through judicial appointments, at least demographically, a more diverse court. Now, as we'll see later, uh, Republican presidents tend to appoint watch out because I'm going to use the air quotes here, conservative justices to the court. And when we talk about this on Monday, I'll ask you, what does that mean? A judge is more conservative than a liberal judge. Um, so ideologically, Republicans are more likely to appoint certain types of judges based on their ideology, but not necessarily their race or skin color. And among Democrats, Barack Obama, 36% of his appointments were non-white, and that's not too surprising. Um, Drill down even further on this, uh, amongst Republican presidents going back to Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump has appointed uh, the highest share of women to serve on the federal bench. Uh, 24% of his appointments were in his first term were female. Again, this is something that doesn't get a lot of news because generally people don't pay a lot of attention to judges that are appointed to courts other than the U.S. Supreme Court. I hate this new feature on my new MacBook makes the camera follow me no matter which way I go, and sometimes I'm moving up and down when I'm not really moving up and down. But anyway, you're going to get seasick watching this lecture. Um, the highest percentage again for Democrats would be Barack Obama. Uh, Again, there's no evidence to show that Republican women uh, adjudicate cases any differently than Republican men do when they're appointed to the bench. Uh, it would be in their judicial philosophy that separates them as a judge from those who are appointed by Democratic presidents. In other words, it really doesn't have that much to do with their gender. Okay, that brings us to the U.S. Supreme Court, and as promised, I will cover this tomorrow in class. I know some of you are going to be gone tomorrow. I've already heard from a couple of people that said you got early Thanksgiving plans or whatever. So hopefully you're watching this lecture at some point. I'm not offering any bonus points on this one. I apologize for that. I just don't have time to do that this time. Um, so we will wrap this up on Monday, start U.S. foreign policy the following week. One more day, 2 days of foreign policy. That's enough. I think that's enough to allow me to cover most of the stuff I want to cover. Um, and I will see you then. Have a good rest of the week. And if I don't see you, happy Thanksgiving. I don't know what you had to be thankful for. I think I have a lot. Um, my I don't think I announced this in all my class. Yeah, maybe I don't know if I announced it in all my classes or not, but my son and his wife are expecting. So uh, this time next year I'll be a grandpa, and it is a little girl, and I plan on spoiling the hell out of her uh, when she uh, when she arrives, when she gets to meet grandpa. Well, anyway, exciting times. Y'all have a great rest of the weekend and a good holiday if I don't see you. And check Blackboard for updates on the notes and other material. Okay, take care.